Hello friends, my name is Vas Solo and this is Why Spirit Matters. This is going to be the first video of a series that I do talking about the common myths which exist about the spiritual path. I was sitting in meditation the other day, eyes closed, watching the breath, repeating a mantra, noticing when my mind became distracted and gently but firmly bringing it back to the practice over and over and over and over again. And when I was done, I thought I should make a video about a common misconception which exists about the spiritual path. The misconception is that the path should be easy or that it shouldn't require any effort at all. And nothing could be further from the truth. My mom, who was also on the path, used to believe this, and her and I would debate about it all the time. She used to think that if you meditated regularly, that eventually all of your bad habits and negative tendencies would fall away on their own. And I used to believe that you had to meditate regularly, but also enforce strict disciplines on yourself. And in the end, we were both wrong. The truth actually lies somewhere in the middle. Yoga, for example, is not a path of extremes. It's a path of moderation. It says so in the Bhagavad Gita. Quote, "There is no possibility of one becoming a yogi if one eats too much or eats too little, or sleeps too much or sleeps too little." But the Bhagavad Gita also says that the spiritual path requires effort. Quote, "Therefore, the doubts that have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, stand up and fight." So effort is required on the spiritual path, but we have to approach it in a balanced way. We can neither be too lazy and do nothing, because then we won't get any results, nor should we go to any extremes and impose any disciplines that are so strict that they're too much for us to handle. Because in the end, we're just going to end up getting burnt out, failing, and getting discouraged. We have to find a middle ground, which takes skill. You have to constantly watch yourself and see that if something is getting to be too much, you have to learn how to pull back so that you don't go off the path. On the other side of that, you have to notice if you're getting lazy, let's say you're skipping meditations or your mind is starting to fall back into its old habits, then you have to steer yourself back onto the path. Sort of like we do with the mind in meditation. We just keep bringing it back to our practice. After all, what we're trying to do is completely transform ourselves so we could reach a higher state of consciousness. That means we have to leave old ideas and ways behind and replace them with new ones that'll help us get there. This is illustrated in the Old Testament in the story of Moses and the Israelites leaving Egypt in search of the Promised Land. They don't wander in the desert for 1 week, 1 month. They wander in the desert for 40 years and face many hardships before they arrive at their destination. This is an allegory for the spiritual path. On the path, we have to constantly resist that voice that urges us to go back to the comfort and safety of the familiar. It's a constant battle between our lower and higher nature, one that takes a really long time. But eventually it does get easier. And there's a great metaphor for this. So as spiritual seekers, we're like a rocket ship trying to go from the earth to the moon. So in the beginning, we need to use a lot of effort and energy to break away from Earth's gravity until we get to a point where the gravity of the sun becomes stronger than the gravity of the earth and begins pulling us towards it. But until that point, we have to make an effort. So don't let any book or teacher sell you on this idea that the path is easy or that it's effortless. If you meet a person like that, run the other way. And if you find that you keep failing on the path, remember that the path is not a linear upward path. It's more of a series of ups and downs, successes and failures. So if you find that you fail, pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and as the Gita says, stand up and fight.
and then